All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the April 20th Konveyor Community Call. My name is Dylan Murray. I'll be hosting it today as we have a few folks at KubeCon. If you don't mind, just please add your name to the attendee list. Let me put the link to the agenda in the chat as well. I thought real fast before we got into the demos, I thought it'd be really cool to just call out. We did release Konveyor 010 last week. So I included a link to it on the agenda to the Operator Hub link, as well as a little demo video that a few folks in the community put together, just kind of highlighting what's new with 010. So please take a look at that. And with that said, Jeff, are you prepared to demonstrate supporting new analysis reports as first-class entities?
Hey, Dylan. Yeah, sure. All right, let's share my screen here. You have to let me know how much time I have. I really didn't think about that.
Well, you're the only one today, so you can take as long as you want.
All right. Okay, so I thought I'd start off with by going over the design. So what this is going to be, it's going to be a first iteration of support in the hub, in both the data model and the API for storing analysis reports and doing queries, and all of this is to support dynamic queries. And so what I'll do is I'll go over the API a little bit here, and then we'll get started with creating an analysis report, look at the structure of that, and then we can canned a little script that will walk through some of the API requests around that, some of the queries. And then, if we want to go live and, you want to put up with my typing, then I'd be glad to entertain whatever we want there. So as you know, based on the requirements we have, what we need to do is we need to store in the hub against each application one or more analysis reports. And so there's the concept of application scope, and then the way that the enhancement talks about it is portfolio scope. So we'll kind of use those terms, and portfolio just means that it's across applications. And so one of the things that the API needs to do is along with creating as like a one-to-many storing analysis reports against applications, is to be able to always query across those at the portfolio level, but only considering the latest analysis for each. So anyway, one thing I want to kind of point out here is that for better or worse, analysis ES seems to be the plural of analysis, which I did a little digging to find out. So I embraced that because I didn't want, anyway, it seems the least wonky, but at least to me anyway. So anyway, so for an application, so first of all, the analysis, all the analysis data, the analysis report endpoints, the routes are all sub-resources under analysis. For the portfolio level, for the across applications, it's at the root, so it's going to be /analysis, and we'll see that in a minute. But you can only create an analysis through the application sub resource. And so the first thing you'll see here is under applications 1, and anywhere you see that, obviously the 1 is just a placeholder. But so in order to create an analysis, you would post against the application 1 analysis or ID analysis, and you can also do a get. Doing a get there will list all of the analysis reports for that application, and that is a summary that doesn't have like all the details. It's not like exploded. It's just a way to see, well, how many of them are there and what their IDs are and so forth. The second endpoint is basically, so the plural is basically the collection, and anywhere you see the singular, it is always the latest analysis. And so if you want to go to an application endpoint and say, just show me your latest analysis report, you would go add it with the singular spelling there, and you would get the latest one for each. And that would be a full picture of the analysis. Continuing to go forward, there's two primary sub endpoints. One of them is the dependencies, one of them are the issues. And so again, for the latest analysis, you can query within the application scope and query against dependencies only for the application and issues. You'll see here that we have a way to do query filtering, and I'll dig into that a little bit more. And also, there are two endpoints here that have been spec'd out, and I'm not totally convinced that they'll be necessary, but for now, they at least match what's in the enhancement in terms of functionality, in that they're kind of summaries. And so we'll see what happens with those. But those I'm not going to demo those today. That's not in the first wave or first iteration. So do you want me to pause there for questions, or do you want me to go through the portfolio level endpoints first, and then we can talk about it all?
Any questions so far? Otherwise, I think you can keep going.
I can't see my screen, so if somebody raises a hand, Dylan, you just have to tell me.
Not a problem. Yeah, I'll let you know if there's anything in the chat as well.
All right.
Go ahead. Yep, keep going.
Okay. So for the most part, the portfolio level endpoints mirror the application level. And so this is where you can get an analysis by ID. Now you might ask yourself, well, how do I know what the ID is? Well, anywhere else that you saw that we can query for analysis, you can get the ID of the specific analysis. And here you'll see that against the only way to delete an analysis, and I don't think we have a use case for this, and I don't think that it's just for completeness, is that not only can you get by ID, but this is the only way to delete a specific one. I guess going forward, we'll have to consider ways to curate this list, or maybe go to I don't know if there's a use case around, hey, I want to blow away all the history of my analysis for this application, but anyway, we can just consider those. You'll see here also that you can that's really the only root level for analysis. And so again, going against the root level collection, and you want to be querying across applications. There's really no use cases for querying against an analysis itself and filtering, because the top level object really doesn't do anything, but for the most part contain things like analysis issues and dependencies. Possibly, we could query against technologies, source and target technologies, but there's no use cases for that, so that's not spec'd out. Anyway, so you'll see here, kind of getting into the more interesting stuff, is that, and I think issues and technology is the more interesting thing, and issues probably even the most interesting. And that is that you're able to query across analysis, and you can filter currently by essentially any of the application top level fields, first class fields, not relation fields, but top level fields. One of the things that's missing here is that you can also query by tag. That's in the, I just forgot to put it in the write-up here. But you can also query by issue fields like the category, effort, source and target technologies, and again, like I said, tags. And if I forgot something, it might be there, but I just forgot. I just probably didn't update the issue with it. I'll pause there because just in case anybody has any questions. Okay. So moving on to dependencies, again, it's kind of more of the same thing. And I have application IDs here, but really I just need to update this. It's really application fields in general. So you can query by application name, you can query by IDs, you can query by, just stuff like that. We can, I don't remember, if we don't query by the other things like tag source, source and target technologies and tags, we can definitely add that easily. It's just, I don't remember if I added that already.
And Jeff, just to clarify, are these the actual application dependencies? That's
actually a really good question. And this is one of the, I wouldn't say the confusing things, but they're currently already in Konveyor. There's already this concept of applications from the Konveyor perspective, having dependencies on each other. This is a totally different thing, and this is why it's namespace underneath of
Gotcha.
analysis.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I figured that I was wrong, but just checking. Okay.
Yeah, these are things like like Java packages and just kind of application, like within the application level, depending like what I mean, source code dependencies or frameworks and things.
Right.
Things
right.
that the analyzer finds.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then the other two here, like I said, I'm not going to cover these too much because these are kind of like summary reports, and these are essentially things like, where we're, having a count that's collated by story points and stuff. I can't remember exactly what it is. I have to go back and look, but I think I spec'd it out here a little bit more. But basically, it's like count, and it's a count of story points of mandatory issues, and it's collated by effort. So again, I have to kind of dig into that a little bit more and just see what that's going to end up kind of looking like and being. But that's what these two endpoints are kind of looking at. And the same thing with this, a count of story points collated by category. So the idea here is I want to cross all the use cases and requirements and the enhancement and these endpoints. Some combination of use of these endpoints seem to satisfy what we needed to do. But again, this is just a starting point. So any questions there? Okay. So filtering is accomplished by a structured filter parameter, a query parameter, and the query parameter is designed to handle being able to query across different types of entities, being able to query where things are in a list, where like category is equal to this, category is in this list of things, like as an or, where like like application has tags A, B, and C, so it supports saying, and like where tag is in this list, but it's an and. So it's primarily focused towards the fact that our primary set of queries are, I want to query against this and this and this, where these values are equal to, greater than, or less than, and all that sort of thing of these values, where this value is in this list as an and, in this list as an or like that it's not in this list, or that kind of thing. So it's not it's designed to be really extensible. It's designed, I believe, to handle the level of complexity that we'll need in the future. And so anyway, so that's kind of what it looks like. And just to kind of give you some examples of what the filters look like is probably the easiest way to look at it, is that, and you can have as many of these filter query parameters as you want that are implied as an and when they're all, like when you list multiple filters. But like I said, it supports, so the other thing is the syntax is also because I know that the UI is going to basically, or when it's being called, that things are going to URL encode things, and so it can have spaces in it. But I didn't want from an API standpoint for it to be like for it to require spaces. So I want it to be friendly to be able to just using curl just go up against it. And so the syntax is designed to be compact, and it's designed to work without any spaces in it. So I'll stop. I'll stop there. If you take a look at these examples, and
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the expected consumer of this API? Is it a dynamic reports or some different kind of, let's say, UI feature?
Well, just like the hub, it's anything. So it could be customer scripting, it could be the UI, it could be whatever. Is there something like did you have were you thinking of a use case beyond that, or were you wondering if it was tailored for the UI?
No, sorry. The question was the UI thing, or if the connection to UI is planned to be part of the dynamic reports, because I understood dynamic reports to be something slightly different. So just wanted to be sure if this is related to that or it's a different use case.
No, it's the same thing, but these are APIs that are needed to support the dynamic querying that the UI needs to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there's no questions about that, I can kind of get into the demo. So probably the first place to start here is, and I scripted this, just so you won't have to watch me type. So let's go ahead and I've got a populated hub that's not heavily populated whatsoever, but basically it's got 5,000 applications. Each of them has like 10 analysis each. And I can't remember because I've messed around with the data so much and added and deleted things. I'm not sure exactly where it sits in terms of the total counts there. But you'll see that, you know, it's not completely clean. Basically, it's 5,000 applications. There's 15,000 issues, and there's about 30,000 dependencies total. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here. So the first thing is I'm going to go ahead and create a sample. And I originally demoed this, and I can kind of walk through it a little bit. But I had basically the idea that we would have one analysis for application one. By the way, it's already got, like, from testing, it's probably already, you know, application one's probably already got like about, you know, 60 analysis against it. Anyway, I wanted to go and create like a data set, and then I wanted to update the data set, and then, you know, let me show you some things and update the data set, and then show you some things, and then show you how it changes over time. And then I was going to update it again and just kind of show you, like, the idea is that you'd see where a user is like fixing things, and it'd be like the issues become 0, which is kind of cool. But I kind of ran out of time, so we can kind of mess around with that afterwards. But the initial data set is designed to have 4 technologies, and the technologies are modeled a little bit where are basically, like, what you'll see is that there aren't a separate list of source and destination technologies, but instead it just has a list of technologies where the kind is either target or source. And that just makes things relationally a lot easier. But so our sample set here is, we've got 5 issues. 1, 3, and 5 are category warning, and issues 2 and 4 are of category mandatory. So you'll see here that we posted against our application endpoint, and yeah, I spelled it right. Anyway, and what you're seeing here is that actually it's running against the hub, and you'll see that what's echoed here is exactly what APIs we're hitting. Okay, so let's take a look at this. And if I talk too fast or scroll too fast, somebody just holler at me. But this is probably the next most interesting thing to some degree is so what does the analysis report look like in the hub? And it effectively looks like this. So an analysis is at its heart an object that has an array of rule sets, and each rule set has a name and a description, and then it has a list of the technologies. And you'll see that, and I just made these up. So we have technology A, B, C, D, and D is the source technology. Anything else by default is a target technology. The next thing here are our issues. And so we have issues. We have, for each issue, we have a unique rule ID, and this is unique within the rule set and the rule. You'll see that this is rule set main and rule 1, and it has a category and a description. And then within that, we have incidences. And for each of these, I just, you'll see they're kind of all the same. I just have these incidences, and Pranav can correct me if there's anything that I could do better here. But each one has a URI and message, and then it says here like a set of facts. And so I just made up some facts. Going on, we have kind of ignore this applications, because this will just essentially show up more with the reports. But I should probably have an omit empty here, and I just forgot to put the omit empty. Anyway, so you'll see here that we have these 5 applications, and they're just like I said that let's see, number 2 and number 4, or the 4th one, are mandatory, and then the other ones are warning. The other 3 are warnings, and then down here at the end you'll see the dependencies. I'm sorry, the technologies were like the source and target technologies we have today, like Quarkus and things like that, or and that sort of thing with like the wind up rules. And then here you have the dependencies, and dependencies. Here's kind of what you were asking about, Dylan. This is kind of like some GitHub project, some library, some Spring Boot, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what they are. And so you'll see here that when we created it, this is what the API returned with the 200, which is the updated resource, the way that we do on everywhere else on the API, where you'll see the IDs and you'll see the create time, and then you see the create user if it wasn't empty. But scripting it's empty. Actually, no, it's not empty. It's I think it's the anonymous.
Sorry, real fast. I think this might have just clicked for me. So the dependencies bit is like, for example, this is a wind-up analysis. So would it be like the JD TLS stuff, like essentially whatever dependency the analyzer is actually using to run it, or is it actually like this is where I still got a little confused, and then I thought I had it, and now I got more confused. Like, is this actually the dependencies for the analyzer to run?
No, think of it this way. Think of it as what's in your Go mod. It's all the dependencies the application says, or dependencies that are in like a Python dependencies file, or in Java. I'm sure there's
like POM XML, right?
Yeah, it's in the POM XML.
Yeah. Gotcha. So there's 2 separate things here, Dylan. There's direct dependencies and indirect dependencies. When the analyzer gets us back, you'll have either direct dependencies, something that's named in the dependencies file, whether that be POM or COMOD, or it will be indirect dependency. So this will be like when we actually do the resolution of that given file, we pull in all the dependencies. The ones that are not explicitly named in that file will be called indirect, and we'll pull those out as well. There is a case where you don't actually have access to be able to resolve that POM file, and in that case, there will just be the direct dependencies. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. I thought this was, when I said application dependencies, that's what I was thinking of the first time, and then I got tripped up. So, okay.
I think there's another concept that's out there floating around that may be causing some confusion around inside the hub and mapping dependencies from the application that we know as the application in the hub. So saying this application that we've defined in the hub to run analysis against also depends on this other application that's defined in the hub that we're going to run analysis against. I think that might be the confusion. In this case, it is the application dependencies for like the actual thing that you're analyzing.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. That cleared it up.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean. One of the things I think what I did was, when I created this, what you'd normally see is if one of these dependencies was indirect, you'd see an indirect true pop up, but because it's omit empty, it's just not showing up. But it's also tracked whether it's direct or indirect. So, anything else on that before we go on? I can mention too here that I know that some of the facts for these and again, Sean or any of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, is that the facts for the incidences are things like file and line number and like potentially a code snip or whatever they decide to do, but it's information like that. I think they're reported as extras in the application, the analyzer. And I want to be really careful here to point out that if these remain named facts in here, that they are completely different than the application level facts that we store as an application concept in Konveyor. Something else I wanted to tell you too, and I just so the other thing that you might be asking yourself is, okay, so what about what about the facts that each issue has? And what about all the tags that get reported by the analyzer? Well, they're not stored here because the application already has a top level concept that we're explaining now, that we're expanding now to be qualified by source, that will inventory the facts that the analysis creates in the same way that that we do tags. And so when the analyzer runs, since those things are already first class things in the inventory, the add-on will update all the tags against the application with source type analysis. And in the case of any of the facts like EJBs, and somebody can come up with a lot better example for facts, but to do with issues. But facts that get discovered along with issues will get also reported as first class facts about the application under the source type of analysis. Any question about that? Okay. All right. So let's get into some fun stuff. We can get into some querying. So the first thing is let's just, okay, now we've created an application. Let's go against the application endpoint and let's just go query the analysis. Well, this is a little bit boring, I hope, because basically it's just the same thing as we saw that got returned by the post. And it is the same one. Trust me. I don't know if you want to go back and compare the IDs, but you would take my word for it. Hey, okay. So at application scope, so let's go ahead and query some issues. And so you'll see that we queried against all the issues basically, and this unqualified get is going to show us the 5 issues that I promised you that we created, or that you saw that we created. And so so this is basically just just the issues. And now let's query against issues and for the application. And let's just say I only want to see mandatory issues. And you'll see here, just like I said, is that only issue number 2 and 4 were mandatory. And so you see in just the 2. So now let's say, okay, now I also want to say I only want mandatory issues with an effort of 10. And this could be an effort of 10 or 20 or 30, or it could be an effort greater than 10, greater than or equal to 10. It could be issues mandatory and warning, mandatories category of mandatory or warning. It could be whatever you want to do there. And so coming back here, you'll see, remember that of the 2 and 4, right, only one of them has an effort of 10. And so that's why we're not seeing this one. Boy, API demos are so dry. All right. Okay, so now let's go ahead and query dependencies, and we'll say, okay, here's our dependencies. And like we said, we had 4 dependencies. I failed to create any indirect dependencies, but here are the 4 that we saw there. And then doing this query again, we have, hey, I want to see, for this application, I want to see only dependencies with asterisk libc. Or in the case of the use case and the enhancement, it'd be like, I want to see where my group is this and my artifact is this dot star, so I can see like whatever, however it's structured and however it makes sense. So we'll see here that of these, we only pick up the 1. So moving forward to this gets a little more interesting, I guess, with the portfolio scope, which is so by the way, my application 1 is named dog, and my application 2 is named cat. And so the first thing we'll do is we'll say, hey, I want to query for all the issues for dog. Well, so all the issues for dog are going to be the 5 issues that we saw when we queried against the application endpoint. Only with this endpoint, we're saying, and by the way, we're going to show you all of the affected applications for this issue. And that's within the scope of the issues you're asking about. So going further, we're going to say, now let's go ahead and query and say again across let's query, let's make the same query, but let's include cat. And so for dog and cat, we now have 8 issues, basically 2 more. See that some of them are dog and cat, and some of them are just dog. And so so that kind of explains where we got the additional ones. Again, I'm just going to keep rolling in case unless somebody has a question, just say something. Okay, so now let's do the same thing where we're querying across for application dog and cat, and just look for an effort of 10. And here you'll see that they all have an effort of 10. We have one less because in our original set of issues, we had one with I think an effort of 20. And so that one's being omitted. And again, you'll see here, anyway, so pretty straightforward. Now let's go ahead and query dependencies. Again, we want dependencies for dog, and we got our 4 dependencies. And then we query against application dog and cat for dependencies. And what do you know? We expect a lot more. We got 10 of them. And then you'll see that actually go back here, you'll see that we only had dog, right? Coming back here, now we have dog and cat. And again, this would include all of this would break it down and collate the affected applications across whatever scope of applications you queried on. Oh, by the way, these are all paginated, by the way. I'm just going to ignore the paginated part because that's, you can probably imagine that if I put an offset or a limit, you see the same thing, and we can play with that later, but that's not terribly interesting. Going forward, more you have dependencies. We're going to filter by the application name. And by the way, it could be the application ID. It could be any information about the application that you want. It could be where the application is like this, whatever. And so we're going to say, again, we want to query for the dependency, and we're going to say, look for everything from GitHub. And what you'll see is that some of these are GitHub, and some of these are Get 4 Hub and Get 6 Hub. And so you'll see here that only the 4 that match that name query, and it could be it could also include the name, it could be the version, it could be the name and the version, it could be the SHA, it could be whatever. Anyway, that's the end of the CAN demo. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Jeff.
All right.
All right. Any questions for Jeff before we call it a wrap here? There's nothing else. Again, I put in the agenda link, the link to our 010 release and a nice little video that some folks put together. I think David edited it. So they're showing that over at KubeCon right now. And aside from that, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.